Welcome, everyone! Today, we're diving straight into this epic, chronological journey of the Sunwell. We're talking about one of the most vital, insanely powerful, and honestly tragic artifacts in the entire history of Azeroth. We're going to map out its whole history, letting it be our guide through a really incredible story of magic, devastating loss, and ultimate redemption. So let's just jump right in.
This explainer is basically going to act as our historical roadmap. We'll be hitting the creation of Quel'Thalas, the devastating fall by Arthas, a people in decline, Kael'thas' madness, Velen's miraculous restoration, and we'll wrap up with the modern Sunwell. Let's start right at the very beginning.
All right, Section 1, the creation of Quel'Thalas, a golden age of arcane power.
So, stepping back, a mind-boggling 7,000 years ago, we enter this magnificent golden age. I mean, just an unfathomable abundance of pure arcane light. It all kicked off when the Highborn exiles, who were led by Dath'Remar Sunstrider, were desperately hunting for a new home after some pretty grueling battles. Dath'Remar did something incredibly bold. He brought along a stolen vial of water from the original Well of Eternity. He literally just poured this vial into a lake sitting right at the convergence of some massive ley lines, and boom, this brilliant fountain of energy tore straight into the sky of Azeroth. Over the next few centuries, this infinite arcane energy empowered the Magi to build this stunning city of Silvermoon. And by 4,000 years ago, they'd set up these massive monolithic runestones to form the Bandinorial Shield, basically an impenetrable barrier meant to hide their magic from any extra-dimensional threats.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how deep their connection to this magic really went. The Highborn actually evolved into the Quel'Dorei, the High Elves, and their link to this power, it wasn't just some tool they used to build a city. Their very bodies became physiologically bound to the Sunwell. They were constantly bathed in its power, every moment of every day, no matter where they traveled on the planet. If they were cut off from this arcane energy, it would be exactly like if you or I were suddenly deprived of food or oxygen. It was an absolute addiction, for sure, but fundamentally, it was their sacred, life-giving sustenance.
Which brings us to a much darker time in Section 2, the fall by Arthas, the great tragedy of the Third War.
You know that immense concentration of pure light? It was eventually bound to attract the worst kind of attention. In just a matter of days, millennia of peace were completely shattered. First up, that impenetrable shield we just mentioned, it completely falls due to treachery from the inside. A high elf named Dath'Remar literally betrays his own people, dropping the defenses for the Death Knight Prince Arthas Menethil. Step 2, Arthas marches his unstoppable Scourge army right in, absolutely devastating Quel'Thalas. The convocation of Silvermoon is slaughtered. King Anasterion, Ranger General Sylvanas Windrunner, gone. Then, Step 3 is just the horrifying climax. Guided telepathically by Kel'Thuzad, Arthas literally tosses the necromancer's remains directly into the radiant beam of the Sunwell. And then the final sickening step. This suffocating, necrotic death magic completely defiles their most sacred artifact. The pure arcane light is violently overwritten by rotting corruption, all just to resurrect Kel'Thuzad as a lich. The violation here is just absolute.
And that leads right into this incredibly painful realization by Prince Kael'thas Sunstrider, the very last of the royal bloodline. He comes back to the ruins of his kingdom and realizes the corrupted Sunwell is actively bleeding necrotic energy into everything. Like, given enough time, this rotting pulse would literally kill all the surviving elves. So to save his people from total catastrophic annihilation, Kael'thas has to execute a heartbreaking plan. With heavy hearts, he and his most powerful Magi deliberately detonate the Sunwell. They literally destroy the very heart of their society just to survive. Now, crucially, and this is a wild detail, an undercover dragon named Quel'Thalas actually managed to scoop up the remaining pure energies right before the detonation and hide them in the form of a human girl named Envina Teague.
Let's move on to Section 3, a people in decline, the birth of the Quel'Dorei.
So the crucial point is, the immediate Scourge threat was neutralized, right? But without their lifeblood, the surviving elves faced a completely unforeseen nightmare. Just think about the High Elves of the past, sustained entirely by pure arcane magic, living it up in a peaceful golden age for thousands of years. Contrast that with the tragic reality of their new existence. Prince Kael'thas declared his people would now be known as the Quel'Dorei, or Blood Elves, to honor the fallen. But cut off from their power, they are going through agonizing, severe withdrawal. They are forged in sheer desperation, completely consumed by an insatiable hunger. This actually pushes Kael'thas to venture out into the shattered realm of Outland to find a cure, while leaders like Lor'themar stay behind to safeguard what's left of the ruins.
Section 4, the madness of Kael'thas, betrayal at the plateau.
Okay, so out in Outland, desperately searching for salvation, Kael'thas aligns with the demon Illidan Stormrage. But man, the path he takes just completely twists his mind. By the time he finally comes back to Azeroth, he's no savior. He is completely corrupted by fell energies and consumed by madness. The events that rapidly unfold at the Sunwell Plateau are just frantic and terrifying. Kael'thas openly sides with the Burning Legion. He actually captures Envina Teague, remember, the human girl harboring the dispersed essence of the original Sunwell, and he tries to use her as a literal portal to summon his new master, the demon lord Kil'jaeden. Thank goodness he's thwarted by the combined forces of the Shattered Sun offensive, but to prevent Kil'jaeden from entering Azeroth, Envina has to use her remaining power, ultimately sacrificing herself. The world is saved, sure, but the Sunwell's left completely dead and drained.
But wait, because here comes the climax in Section 5, Restoration by Velen, the glorious rebirth.
Now, what's really interesting here is just when it looked like the Blood Elves were doomed to suffer this agonizing magical withdrawal forever, salvation comes from the most unexpected place. The Draenei Prophet Velen steps forward right in the direct aftermath of the battle. He takes the spark of a fallen naaru, this being of pure, holy energy named Muru, and channels it directly into the dead waters. Guys, the sheer, miraculous weight of this act is staggering. A Draenei using a naaru's holy spark to cure an ancient elven curse? It's a massive, world-shifting event. In an instant, the legendary Sunwell is sanctified and reignited. And almost immediately, the agonizing addiction and withdrawal pangs of elves all over the world are just relieved. It was this instant, miraculous rebirth of a nation's soul that they thought was literally impossible.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, the Modern Sunwell, a beacon of dual power. We are finally in the modern era, where the elves are forging a really promising new identity and leading Quel'Thalas into a much brighter, unified future. The Blood Knights, this order of Blood Elf paladins who used to forcefully siphon the light, have now completely embraced genuine holy power. Why? Because the Sunwell is fundamentally changed. Notice how it's now this perfect 50-50 split. It's derived equally from its original arcane magic and Muru's holy light. Think about it. The original well, for 7,000 years, was entirely arcane, but Velen's restoration literally transformed its entire composition into a true fountain of dual cosmic forces.
So that leaves us with this final, massive question to think about. For millennia, pure arcane magic shaped literally everything the elves were, their society, their architecture, their very bodies, all of it. But now, they're sustained by this delicate cosmic balance of both arcane and holy light. How is the blending of these two immense forces going to continue to shape their culture, their magic, and honestly, the future of Azeroth as a whole? It is a super fascinating thought to ponder as we watch their story keep unfolding. Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible journey today.